This is my application for the world's weirdest start to a TED Talk. None of this makes sense at the moment, but I promise you it will. So hopefully today you're in a good mood. You've heard a bunch of amazing speakers, and you've waited around very politely for myself. But if I were to ask you yesterday if you felt stressed, what would you say to yourself? I'm hearing murmurs of a yes.
Hell yeah.
Gallup asked this and a series of other questions around the world to develop the Negative Experience Index, which essentially measures unhappiness around the world. And since 2010, this has risen by 37.5%. Essentially meaning that global unhappiness has risen by 37.5%. I think we feel that in our day-to-days with our loved ones and our friends and what we see on socials. It paints a pretty bleak picture, but maybe all you need is a toilet. So, I'm going to tell you my story and our story, and we're going to travel through time. As I was practicing this, I struggled to connect to it emotionally. I think because it hurt me so much at the time. But if I could travel back in time and give that young man a big hug and say it's going to be okay, that's what I would do. So let's go back in time, all right? It's 2010. The first iPad has just been released. I've downloaded something called Instagram. I've uploaded a selfie, it's pretty cool. I've got to say, give it a like. Also on my phone, I downloaded something called Uber. That's just been launched. I've got a taxi ready to get out of here straight after this. And back in 2010, I was a trainee electrician. There weren't probably any TED Talks on the horizon for Ryan Hopkins in 2010. I played rugby every weekend, my passion, I loved it. In the UK, when you play rugby, more often than not on a Saturday, it's raining, right? One Saturday I turned up to play, full guns blazing. It's raining. And I'm not talking that light rain, that dry rain. I'm talking wet rain. You know what I'm saying? That rain that's coming in sideways, where the top of your head doesn't even get wet. And I take the ball, ready to go. All right, it's try time. Take the ball into contact. And I was tackled on the floor. My foot was also in the floor still. You know those breaks that you see when body parts are facing the wrong way? Yeah, one of those. Check my Instagram out. Trust me, I told you earlier. The paramedics were called. I'm on my front, waiting for them to come. Mr. Hopkins, that doesn't look good. I'm aware. There's no pulse in your foot. We need to put it back in, otherwise you're going to lose your foot. Okay, all right. Let's go. So they gave me the gas in there. I go. Trying to get high as humanly possible for what's about to happen. 3, 2, 1. Pushed it back in. But what they didn't know at that time was that my leg was also broken. And it pushed all the bones up my leg. I'm not shorter on one side to this day, it's okay. Needless to say, the recovery was long. I didn't walk for the best part of a year. I was unable to continue my electrical apprenticeship. I couldn't play the sport that I loved. I couldn't move. I put on weight. I was miserable. I was in debt. I had no qualifications. I was 20 and I didn't know what to do. And every day I would plonk myself in my wheelchair. I was normally in my bed or on the couch. I'd go around the block. I'd wheel myself around the block. And I remember going past the woods, and one day I saw myself, clear as now, I can still see it, myself hanging from the trees. And it was then that I made plans to take my own life. But I didn't, because of the people that cared for me the most. My mum being my mum. The number one, everyone's number one, right? I'm still here. So now we're going to move forwards in time. It's 2013. We lost the icon, that is Nelson Mandela. Avicii is number one in the charts. Wake me up when it's all over. When I'm wiser and I'm older. Yeah, you know that one. Everyone likes that song, right? Okay, so you're back with me. It's 2013, yeah? You with me? Yeah. Yes, I thought so. So I've managed to get walking again. I've gone through years of rehab now. I got myself a job in a bank. I was on the counter. I had to sell stuff to people. I was a pretty good salesman, believe it or not. All right, love, how's it going? What can I get for you? How you doing? On the surface, I was looking confident again. I began to lose the weight, but developed some unhealthy coping mechanisms to do so. I had developed bulimia, but I couldn't tell anyone. It's not what a working class rugby player man has. So that was that. I just kept to myself. And one day I was in the bank. I was on a strict chicken and broccoli diet. If I was treating myself, I'd drink the juice which it was cooked in. And one day I was trying to talk to customers, and I was unable to get my words out. Something's not right here. I was like, what? What? So the ladies in the bank who treated me like an adopted son, I think they did it because they wanted me to continue making the tea, but they gave Mum a call, Mum to the rescue again, right? She came to pick me up. We went and we shared a slice of cake together, and I told her what was going on. It's not how everyone takes their first step on the journey of recovery, but that was mine, and an 8-year battle to come out of that. But I did come out of it. So now, it's 2016, we're moving through time, now we're really moving to picking up pace. Brexit happened. This is not a political talk. Thank you. Trump was elected. But at least we have Pokemon Go. So I guess that's something, right? Perfect. And I got myself to university finally. No qualifications, just a lot of this. They must have thought, he seems nice, let's give him a go. I put a lot of pressure on myself. So this is your shot. You know what it's like to lose everything. Don't mess this up, Ryan Hopkins. I was a bouncer. I was a lot heavier than I was now, playing first team rugby again. I used to pull double-decker buses on a rope. So on the surface, I was a big, confident guy. Sorry, you've had too much to drink, you're not coming in. But inside, I was a wreck. I was so anxious to the point I was breaking out in hives. And every time I left my front door, I felt like I was going to wet myself. Horrible. But we got through that as well. So now it's 2022. Since we started on our journey back in 2010, there were 66 people taking antidepressants out of every 1,000. In 2013, on our next stop, there were 84, over a 25% increase. In 2016, there were 101 out of every 1,000, over a 50% increase. And in 2022, there were 112 people out of every 1,000 taking antidepressants. A 70% increase since we started back in 2010. This being one fraction of the people who are suffering. One fraction of the people who are seeking support. In the UK, almost 1 in 4 people are showing signs of anxiety or depression at the moment. And that iPad I bought back in 2010, I'm now spending 1,000% more time on it than I was in 2010. We see well-being as something to be fixed, something needs to be addressed later, something that requires a solution. But you could have given me the world's best solution when I was at my lowest. I wouldn't have wanted it, needed it, or been in the headspace to even consider using it. What I needed was the love and affection of the people around me. Well-meaning solutions, applications, webinars, support can exacerbate stress if we don't have 6 minutes to ourselves. You can't meditate your way out of a 14-hour day. There's no silver bullet that's coming to save us. No application, no webinar. What I learned in the years as I pieced myself back together again and again and again was that well-being is no small thing, but it's made up of small things. What works for one doesn't work for another. What I really learned was that big doors swing on little hinges. So in the past 13 years since my accident, I've done pretty much every job there is to do. Been a bouncer, a bricklayer, electrician. I started a hostel business in Ecuador. I ran a school in Italy, a bar in Spain. I taught in Chile. Think of a job? I've done it. Now think of another one. I haven't done that, you're sick. But there isn't much I haven't done. And I spent years trying to work out what I wanted to do. And when I finally worked out what I wanted to do 6 and a bit years ago, I tried my utmost to be someone else, to pretend I wasn't me. I was fundamentally flawed. I was broken. It was only a matter of time before people were going to find out. When I got into the wellbeing world, I started to share my story one piece at a time as I felt comfortable. I told a story here, a story there, and slowly started to share each piece of it. And every time I did, I found out there were 1, 10, 100 people just like me. And then I really turned it up. And I started sharing on social media, the cauldron. And then I found out there were 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 people just like me. There's nothing wrong with me, and there is definitely nothing wrong with you. Over the years of trying to develop well-being with organizations around the world, I've found that it's either in complete crisis or so woo-woo that it engages no one. Whereas what I've learned, working with organizations and people around the world, is that well-being is no small thing, it's made up of small things. James Clear in his book, Atomic Habits, shares with us small, smart decisions with consistency over time equal a radical difference. I'd like to add one word. Small, smart well-being decisions with consistency over time equal a radical difference. If you improve by 1% every day for a year, you're 3,778% better at the end of the year with compound interest. It's the little things that make the difference. So this got me thinking. What's one thing we do 8 times every day that we could attach positive habits to? 8 times every day. If you think you don't go 8 times every day, count tomorrow. I was shocked. If every time you went to the toilet, you did 10 press-ups, you'd do 29,200 press-ups this year. I think how good your arms are going to look next summer, right? If every time you went to the toilet, you stood up and you looked at yourself in the mirror and you said, you're not a piece of rubbish. Oh. You're doing the best you can, you're a good human, and you help people. Or if every time you went to the toilet, you came out and you sat back down, you had a nice, big, deep breath. That one was for me, but you get it. This was where the concept toilet break well-being was born. I started with a few selfies in the bathroom. I thought, I'm going to ruin my career here. And now I have a full ring light set up in my bathroom, and I have to warn people when they come around, there's not an OnlyFans channel happening in my house. We've made it much more complex than it needs to be. You're essentially a houseplant with more complicated emotions. A lot of us just need more sunlight and a bit more water. It's the little things that make the difference. So since starting my global journey on the commode, I've been made redundant twice. I've posted over 1,500 times. I've engaged over 6 million people in the betterment of well-being, trying to make it more fun and accessible, trying to remove the stigma around the topic. I've just signed a book deal, and I'm doing a flipping TED Talk. Yeah, let's go! So now, we're going to travel forwards in time. Are you ready? So it's 2034. Prime Minister David Beckham is addressing the nation. It could happen. There was a global banana shortage. Each banana is now worth more than the Bitcoin, but that's not the headline we're here for. If we continue at the same rate of increase, we're going to have over 1 in 3 people in the UK showing signs of anxiety or depression. But I don't think that that's going to happen, and for 2 reasons. One, because we're going to adopt an increasing attitude of healthishness. We're going to be selfish about our health. We're going to ruthlessly prioritize the things that we need to do each day to be our best self. There's nothing less selfish The most important part for me of every day is 12:15. I'll block my calendar out, 12 to 1, and I'd eat at 12 and then go for a walk and give my nan a call. I started the pandemic for her, but I continued for me. And she passed away 2 weeks ago, unsurprisingly, while I was practicing for this. And I'll never get the chance to call her ever again. But I regret nothing, because it brought me so much joy. And what's more important than that? So you make space for it and you prioritize it ruthlessly every single day. Forget work-life balance, chuck that in the bin. It's life, which work is one part of, and certainly not the first part. And as my mate RuPaul says, if you don't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else? Can I get an amen? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And secondly, because we're going to normalize conversations around mental health. There is no tougher battle than the one that you fight in your own head. Trust me, I know. But you've been through all of that, and you're still here, you're still turning up, you're still fighting, you're still helping other people. You never know who needs to hear your story when you are there to share it. It doesn't matter if you do it from a toilet, on the back of a horse, on a chair, on a stool, or standing. The most important thing is that you share. Because helping one person might not change the world, but it might just change the world for that one person. So now, we're going to go back to the future. It's 2034 once again. Prime Minister David Beckham is addressing the nation again. And he just shared that depression and anxiety have dropped to pre-2010 levels. And all we needed was a toilet. Now it's time to flush and flourish. And we're done.